boys and girls. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, and today we'll be doing Module 6, Lesson 10. So yesterday you did Lesson 8 with Miss Medina. We're skipping one lesson, so make sure you're on Module 6, Lesson 10. Today's objective, by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to compare decimals, and we're going to be doing that with the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to. By that, we're going to be using an area model and number lines. Your key points for today, if you're using an area model, you're going to be able to shade the area model for each decimal. And if you need to, you're going to have to decompose the tens into hundreds. If we're using a number line, you're going to be able to plot the decimal form on a number line. And last, once you do either or, area model or number line, then you're going to be able to compare your decimals. So let's go ahead and start with today's do now. So at this time, go ahead and pause your video. Make sure you are doing Wednesday's do now. Give yourself about 5 minutes and then go ahead and click play one more time. So here are the answers for Wednesday's do now. Make sure that you gave yourself those 5 minutes to answer these 4 questions. And now you can pause the video to compare or to make any corrections that you need for any of these 4 problems. First one, it says Benny walked the dog for 20 minutes. So we know that information. And then it says Chris walked the dog 4 times as long as Benny. So 4 times, that means I'm going to multiply 20 times 4. And then once I do the standard form, I get 80. So we could say that Chris walked the dog 80 minutes. And I forgot to put my units, so make sure you label what units we're working with. Name your units. Now the bottom one, second one, it says to draw a shade and shade 2 fractions that are equivalent, that means they are equal to 1/3. So I'm going to shade in, or I'm going to model 1/3, and I can do, if I partition my units into halves, then I get 2/6. Here we are to circle the name of this geometric figure. I know that parallel lines are lines that are next to each other, but they do not intersect. So therefore, these are parallel lines. Last one, you multiply in standard form 245 times 3. You do 1 unit or 1 value at a time. You should get 735. So at this time, go ahead and make corrections, and let's move on to today's lesson. So problem 1 in lesson 10, make sure your module 6, lesson 10, it says, shade the parts of the area model below, decomposing tens as needed. So only if you have to represent the pairs of decimal numbers. So we're working in this lesson, we're working with decimal numbers. Yes, we might see a few fractions, but mainly we're working with decimal numbers. And then we're going to fill the blank with the symbol less than, greater than, or equal to in order to compare our 2 decimal numbers. So for letter A, for example, I have 0 and 19, or you could also read it 0.19. And I'm comparing this decimal number to 0.3, or we could also say 0 and 3. So I'm going to use this first area model to represent 0.19. So I know that I need to decompose this larger model into hundreds. So here I have tens, but I'm working with hundreds. Remember, the 1 is in the tens and the 9 is in the hundreds. So I need to decompose the tens, the larger tens into smaller hundreds. And like we've been doing in the past lessons, we can cut it or partition it, into halves, and then I can create a smaller horizontal line, and then that left half, into half, into half, and into half. So the bottom portion of my model has 50, and 50 plus 50 will give me 100. So I do the top, and then half, half, and half. And you can pause the video, take time to count If there's 100 smaller units, you can do that at this time, or you could just count, remember, like we did in the first semester, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 units going across, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 going down, and I know that 10 times 10 equals 100. Therefore, I have 100 units, smaller units than what we started with. So my decimal says that I need to represent 0.19. And because I'm working with hundredths, I'm only going to shade how many? 19. So I know that going down, I have 10. And do I need to go all the way down on the next line? No, only 9. So right here, be very careful when you shade in. If you have a highlighter, you can use a highlighter. If you have pencil. But look how I didn't shade the very last one, because it says 0.19, not 0.20. So now I go on to my next decimal. I have 0.3. Now I see that the 3 is in the tenths place, and I don't have hundredths number. There's no number, there's no digit in the hundredths place. So therefore, I don't have to decompose. So that's telling me that I'm going to shade how many tenths? Because we have 10 tenths. And how many am I shading? 3. So then I have 1 tenth, shade the 2 tenths, and shade 3 tenths. So just by looking at the model, and this might work for some of you. For some of you, we're going to use, or you can use the number line. But just by looking at this model, which one is greater? Which one has a greater part shaded? Yes, we could say that 0.19 is less than 0.3, because this second model is shaded in a larger portion compared to the first model. So here we were working, this model we were able to decompose into hundredths. In this model we didn't decompose, therefore it stayed in the tenths. Let's do letter D now. So I need to represent 0.38 in this model, and I will represent 0.7 in the second model. So therefore, because I'm working with hundredths, because it's tenths and I see hundredths, I'm going to partition one more time this model. Remember, start with the half, create one bottom one, and then this, what's left, you're going to partition it in half, that half into half, and one more half. I have 50 on the bottom. Now I'm going to create 50 units on the top. Start with one horizontal line, then partition into half, half of that half, and half of that half. Now I have 100. And I need to shade 38 because I have 38 hundredths. So I know that going down, I have 10, 20, 30. I have 30. How many more do I need to have shaded 38 hundredths? Yes, 8 more. So right here, count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So please, boys and girls, when you're doing this part in your exit ticket, make sure you count, because it does matter how many you are shading. That's part of showing your strategy for the exit ticket. So for exit ticket question number 1, come back to these two, because they're going to help you answer those. So this model, we were able to partition into hundredths. So that's 0.38 shown in my model. Now let's do 0.7. I know that I'm working with tenths. Any hundredths? No, so there's no need to partition this model into hundreds. So therefore, we're working with tenths. And how many tenths do I have? 7. So that means I'm only going to shade 7 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you can shade it in all the way perfectly. So if I shaded 7 tenths, that means I have 3 that are not shaded. Now let's go ahead and do problem number 2. So some of you might prefer to compare these fractions, and I just noticed I didn't finish letter D on number 1. So now looking at the shaded parts, which one do you see that it's shaded with a larger portion? Yes, 0.7. So we could say that 0.38 is less than 0.7. And be careful right here, because let's say if we're not paying attention, we could say, well, 7 is less than 38, but you need to pay attention on where each digit is being placed. Think about the place value chart. We have the ones, the tenths, and the hundreds. And once you use the area model, you're able to have a picture of which one is shaded with greater parts, with more parts. Now I'm going to show you problem number 2, letter B. Again, we're still comparing decimals, but now this part is using a number line. So here I noticed that my first decimal has 18.19. It has 2 digits after the decimal point. And the other decimal only has 1 digit after the decimal point. So let's go ahead. And here you're going to plot each of your decimals on the number line. And then we're going to be able to compare the 2 decimals. Well, I want to know which one's greater and which one's less than the other. So let's see, 18.19. Do you see it on your number line? No. How about, do you see 18.3? Do you see it? Yes. So we can plot 18.3 right here. And when you plot, please plot, make sure it's visible, because when you turn in your picture of your exit ticket, I want to be able to see where you plotted your decimal. So make it nice and dark. So I put a check mark because I already plotted that on my number line. Now I want to plot 18.19. Well, I don't see the 19, but I know that I'm working with 18.1, which is right here, because that's the tenths. Okay. And kind of it's similar to what you used on the area model. You're going to decompose, or you're going to put the parts in between 18.1 and 18.2. That means right here, 18.1, what do you think it's right here? 18, and I'm going to do it with red so you can distinguish. So think about when we use that number line. We always start with 0. And even though it doesn't have it on the hundreds place, it starts with 0. That means my next point is 18.11. So you see the pattern, 10, 11, and I'm going to make this one large, a little bit longer, so all my decimals are not bunched up together. So if this was 18.11, this one will be 18.12. The next one will be 18.13. Look how I'm still using the number 1 in the tenths place for all of them. So if this is 18.11, 18.12, 18.13, what do you think the next one is? 18.14. 18.15. Let's make the next one. So skip 1, make it longer. So again, so all your decimals are not bunched up together. So 18.15, then 18.16, 18.17, make it long, 18.18, and this one will be 18.19. And after after 18.19, what comes after 18.19? Yes, 18.20. So we just add that 0. It's not given to you, but because we're doing the number line, we start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the hundreds place. So now that you've completed, and you don't have to do the rest because we know that we're working with the number 1 in the tens place. So you only focus between this starting of the number line and this part of the number line. So you don't have to fill the rest. Now I'm looking for 18.19. Do you see where 18.19 is in the number line? It's right here, right? Again, when you plot, make sure you do it nice and bold so we can be able to see it in your exit ticket once you submit your picture. So now that I have plotted my 2 decimals on the number line, which one is greater? Which one is more to the right, or which one is greater? Yes, 18.3. And because 18.9 is to the left, that means it's less than. So if you visualize, if you see 18.19 and 18.13, we could say that 18.19 is less than 18.3. And be careful. Again, you might see the 3 by itself and you might think, the number 3 is less than 19. But again, look at your place values. Look at the place value. Even if it helps to remind you, just like Ms. Medina and myself, we've been doing in the past lessons, you can kind of write this to help you remember the place value of each digit. So this is the ones, and which is your decimal. These are your tens, and these are your hundredths. So for number 3 and question number 4, all of them in between can help you to do the question number 2 on your exit ticket. So if you are having trouble with the exit ticket, come back to these 2 problems for reference. So here we're going to be using the symbol, any of these 3 symbols to compare. And I'm going to do letter E with you. Remember, my problems are different than yours, but the way we solve, the steps we take are the same. Here, so the first part, or the first page that we did, we used error model and we used number line. Here, what you can do, what I suggest that you do is just make the line with the decimal and the next 2 place value after the decimal. And if it helps, again, go ahead and name them. Ones, tens, and hundreds. So if I plot 13, and because we have the tens place, we could also even do that one as well. These are tens. Compared to this one, these are tens. So I have 13 and 1. Okay, do I have any hundreds? No, so I could say that I can plot a 0. Now I want to compare to this other next fraction. So we can do the same. Let's put a box right here. This is where we're going to put our comparison symbol. So again, I'm going to draw the tens, the ones, and then the tens, and then the hundreds. And I want to insert this decimal form right here. So then I can put 13 and 1/10 and 0 hundredths. What do you notice about these 2 decimals? What do you notice? That they are equal to each other. So even though right here as a decimal form they were not showing us a 0, because there's actually 0 hundredths, we just have to plug it in, it's actually equal to 13.10. So therefore you're going to put the equal sign. Let's go ahead and do letter D. Look how letter D looks similar to E, but we'll see what symbol we get for this new problem. So again, because here you only need the ones place and two place values after the decimal. So then if you put the first decimal, let's place the first decimal, 3.02, and then I want to put the ones place, decimal, and then the tenths, and then the hundredths. And so let's go ahead and plot this one, 3 and 2. Do I have any hundredths? I have 0 hundredths. So notice how the ones place is the same, have the same value, but look at the tens place. Look at the tens place here, and look at the tens place here. Which one has a greater value, the 0 or the 2? The 2, right? Therefore, I could say that 3.02 is less than 0.2. So again, be very careful where your digits are placed in each of the place values. So again, if you need to draw the lines to remind you of each place value, go ahead and do that. Let's do one more in this same section. Let's do letter F. I have 5.8 compared to 5.92. Just by looking at it, I think that 8 is less than 92, but let's go ahead and work it out to see if this is true. So let's go ahead and plot 5.8. So let's do the ones place because I only have one digit in the ones, decimal, and then I have the tenths and the hundredths. But I'm only going to put 5.8. And how many hundredths are they giving us right here in this first decimal? 0. And I'm going to compare it to the next decimal. So I have one digit in the ones place, and then I have 2 digits after my decimal point. So I have 5 ones, 9 tenths, and 2 hundredths. So I look at the ones and I see, okay, the ones place are equal to each other, they're similar. Then I move on to the tenths place. What do you notice about the digits on the ones place? Which one is greater? 9, right? So therefore I can say that 5.92 is greater than 5.80. Or you could also say 5.8 is less than 5.92. Now let's go ahead and do problem 4, and I'm going to model 3 problems. Number 4 is going to help you on 2 problems for the exit ticket. So if you are having similar problems in the exit ticket, come back and refer to this section. So let's do letter D. We are still comparing, but notice how here they're using decimal form, they're using fraction form, and they're also using unit form. So let's see how this would work having different type of units. So I want to compare 8.39 to 8.39 tenths. Well, let's turn all of them into decimals because we've been working with decimals in this unit. So that 8.39 stays the same, but I want to convert this mixed number into a decimal form. So I know that I have 8 ones, and how many tenths? 39. Therefore, just by looking at them, I don't even have to work it out the way we did up here. I know that they're what? There's the 8 in the ones place is the same. I have a 3 in the tenths, and I have a 9 on the hundreds for each side. Therefore, these two decimals are equivalent to each other. Now let's do F. Here they're giving to you in unit form. Remember, unit form is when we read it a number with the word. So 3/10, are they giving me any ones? No. Are they giving me a digit in the tens place? Yes. How many? 3/10. And are they giving me a number for the hundreds place? No. Now, let's go ahead and model this 2200s. Are they giving me a number on the ones place? No. Therefore, we continue with the decimal. So we have 0 ones. Do we have any tens or any hundreds? Yes, we have. We could write it like this, 22 hundreds. And this you learned in yesterday's lessons. Remember when you were grabbing the two digits together? So 22 hundredths. So now that I have placed each digit into its right place value, I can compare them. So I could say that, okay, I have 0 ones on each of my decimal forms, but notice the tens place. I have a digit, I have a number on each of the tens place. Which one is greater, the 3 or the 2? The 3. Therefore, I could say that 0.3 is greater than 0.22. Or I could, and the way it's given to you, I could say that 3/10 is greater than 22 hundredths. Be careful right here because some of you might not read the word and you might just look at the digits, you might just look at the numbers and you might think, 22 is larger than 3. That's true, but you need to read the unit, you need to read the name of the unit that they're giving to you and then plot it like this to help you figure out which one is greater than the other one. I will work one more with you, and again, you might need something similar like this one in the exit ticket, or any of these will also help for the exit ticket. For letter E, we're comparing 236 hundredths compared to 2 and 36, or 2.36. Well, what do I know about this fraction? Let's set it up in decimal form. Well, if remember a couple lessons ago, we were able to decompose. So let's decompose our fraction. So I know that the numerator is greater than the denominator. So what fraction can I write to decompose 236 over 100? Yes, I could say that 100 over 100 will equal 1 whole. And I'm left with another 100 over 100 will give me another whole. Now we have 200, but I'm left with 36 hundredths. So I can write this last fraction as 36 hundredths. And if I write this in decimal form, I am saying that I'm bringing down this 1 whole, I'm bringing down this whole, and I'm going to bring down the leftover fraction. So 1 whole plus 1 whole equals 2. And the fraction that I was left with, 36 hundredths. So this is my new fraction, but if I want to transfer, if I want to convert this into a decimal form, I could say that I have 2 in the ones, and I have 36 hundredths. So at this time, if you want to pause the video and rewatch this portion, you may do so. You have something similar on your problem set. So come back to letter E for when you do letter E on your problem set. So now I'm going to compare 2 and 36 or 2.36 to this next decimal number. What do you notice about these two? These two decimal numbers, the ones I'm pointing at, that they're equal. So even though they were giving us a fraction form and a decimal form, at the end, we were able to figure out that these two numbers are equal to each other. So now, boys and girls, it's your turn to go ahead and complete the problem set. So make sure you go back to the video as many times as you need. You are to do problem set questions 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those are be found on pages 75 and 76. When you're done completing the problem set questions, go ahead and complete your exit ticket for Module 6, Lesson 10. You have 2 questions. In total, I believe there's 4 because problem 2 has A, B, and C. Again, go back to the video, reference the steps, and if you have any questions, you can either private message myself or Miss Medina. One thing that we want to remind you, boys and girls, is that you upload the picture of the exit ticket today. Because if you wait to the last minute, 1, you can forget, or 2, if you have any questions on the problems, today is the best day for us to help you out. It doesn't mean we can't help you later on, but just so you can, finish today's lesson and then you don't get behind. And also because you get feedback right away and you get your grades today. On this, I want to remind you, keep doing good. If you have questions, once again, go ahead and reach Miss Medina or myself, and we'll see you tomorrow.